Bang! Neeves Knives, I'm Jared, and today we are checking out something really cool. This is something new, and it's coming from Leatherman. Now, we know Leatherman is basically being the leaders in creating the best multi-tools on the planet that are made in the USA, but today we are checking out their new folding pocket knife, the Blazer. And this is running a drop point hollow ground magnet cut blade with not only a unique locking system, but also some other unique features we're going to get right into. And then we're also going to check out their new fixed blade, also in magnet cut steel with a nice hollow ground blade. Let's take a closer look at these. So if you're interested in this knife, please stay tuned to the end because I have a lot to go through and we still have to go through the fixed blade. So I'm going to try to get through this stuff quickly. This is only a first impressions, but I've got a pretty good impression about it. So I do have my nitpicks and negatives that we always say at the end. This is a USA made knife, obviously magnet cut steel, as you can see, with a hollow ground drop point blade. And the handle is actually a stainless handle. It's a stainless steel handle, which is surprising because it doesn't feel as heavy as you would think. I thought it was going to be aluminum, but I mean, don't get me wrong, you do feel some weight. It has some weight to it, but it's milled out so well in the inside that it brings down a lot of the weight. And if you look, this side does not have a pivot. Right? So if we take this apart, which I'm going to show you it taken apart, I might as well show you that right now. So, because I think that you guys kind of need to see the inside to understand the rest of what I'm going to say. So let's take this scale off and show you the inside. So this side is all one piece. So if you look at the stop pin, and basically the stop position for the locking system in the blade is made out of this side. So this side is one solid piece, and it has a liner, which is a compression lock basically. So they have a compression lock liner that is not screwed in. It is actually wedged under a piece, and then it has a positioning pin, and it goes over that. You can actually see the positioning pin right there. And then it goes all the way up here to the lock, and then there's this steel piece that has a built-in detent. So that's another very unique feature. We have basically a compression style lock that has a separate steel piece, which equals from the button and the lockup, but also has a detent integrated into it. Now, the detent is a steel nub. So it has a steel nub that falls into the blade, and which creates the resistance in the closed position. And then also when you do break the detent and you rotate it around, then the liner will push that piece of steel into position, locking it up, making it a damn bang fault. It is very, very solid. Now, the washers are very large washers, and I put Slick-em-all on them. I polished them actually first. So first I put them on a stone. I polished them up on a 5,000 grit resin bonded stone. And that's just, you know, because I wanted to. No, but you don't have to do that. But it's definitely something that can make a knife much smoother. But the biggest thing that made it even smoother was the Slick-em-all. Slick-em-all is something that OCD for EDC makes. After adding the Slick-em-all, it got way, way smoother than it originally was when I opened it up out of the box, but I did figure out something I was doing wrong. So we'll talk about that here in 1 second. But the Slick-em-all made it very slick, especially with the polished washers. And now, you know, you can see it's got a nice solid lockup in the closed position, perfectly centered. You can see the separation, see the deep carry clip is wedged in between the scales, and then you just screw that screw in right there. Hidden lanyard pin back there. And now let's just get into the action. Let's talk about how the action feels, because it has a unique action. This is not like anything I've personally felt. The only thing I can think of that actually kind of reminds me of this is actually something from Leatherman, and that is their K3, but it has the compression style lock. I forget, I don't know exactly what to call it. I know it's like a patent pending thing they're doing, so forgive me for calling it that. I'm just going to call it the Leatherman compression right now. But when you disengage it, it doesn't just fall. Okay, it doesn't just fall. And I do got to say, and this is where I made a mistake, if you squeeze it, it won't shut, right? So if I squeeze right here and I'm pushing the button and I'm squeezing this other side, it's not going to shut. It's going to have a lot of resistance. Yes, I can push it down, but if I put no tension on it, so I just push the button and I'm gently holding it, I can get it to just drop. So that does take a little bit of getting used to, because most knives we're used to kind of holding firm, right? So when you push the button, you know, you kind of just drop it. With this, you do have to be a little bit more gentle on the scales, otherwise you'll squeeze them together a little bit. It's not so much that you'll stop it from closing, but it'll stop it from free falling, if that makes sense. And I do get it down very much. It's still breaking in, you know, so it's very, very smooth. It does have a glassy smoothness to it, similar to a Sebenza. And in fact, the detent feels similar to a Sebenza in a way too, because it has a light detent. So if you, I know most people aren't going to know Sebenza, so I'm going to explain it in better detail. But if you know the Sebenza, it has a very similar slow roll to that. However, the snap for doing a reverse flick or a thumb flick is much snappier. So it's definitely different. Like, it doesn't feel exactly the same, but it has a light detent. Now, it's not going to swing out or anything like that. And then you do have these tapered thumb discs or thumb studs. They are tapered, and they have plenty of room to get to because they chamfered the edge. Nice and grippy, easy to thumb flick and easy to reverse flick. But again, if you can hold this gently, it will basically, not free fall, but with just a little bit of effort, it will smoothly shut. So you can one hand shut it. But, you know, if you are holding it and you are just aggressive with your grip, that's okay. You can still lower it down with your finger, no problem. Very, very slim in the hand. I should have said this already. The first thing I noticed getting this in hand was how thin it is. It is super slim. I like slim, and but there's also a limit, right? There's a level of slim that's too slim. This does not exceed that. This is, in my opinion, one of the perfect amount, like basically the perfect amount of thinness, where it's super slim in the hand, but it's got that slight contouring, very, very slight, but just enough. It's almost, you know, it's got a little bit of a raised area right here, and the texture of it locks it in place, so it feels good in the hand. Yes, it is slim. It's not something you'd want to maybe bear down on like crazy, but you could absolutely do it. The geometry, really good geometry, nice and thin behind the edge. And they did do a lower edge angle. Now, we'll talk more about the edge here in a second. I want to talk about the clip really quick. Super smooth. One of the best clips, and they have their little logo right there. They wanted to do something different, and I heard them explain this in the Blade HQ video they did, where they did do like a little bit of a shop tour, if you want to go check that out. But this is very smooth and out of pocket. It's almost like a wire clip, but it's not. It's basically a machined stainless steel wire pocket clip. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but it's very smooth. I like it a lot. Has a little bit of movement, right? A little bit up and down, you know, you can, but it doesn't bother me. I like it. I like it quite a bit, actually, because one of my biggest pet peeves is tearing up my pockets with a clip. I freaking hate that. Now, really quick, I should have said this too. You see how the lock comes out over there. If you put your finger there, you are going to stop it from disengaging completely because your finger's blocking it. So you do have to keep your finger either above or below when you close it. Now, let's talk about the negatives. Let's get into the negatives. So, oh, wait, you know what? But before we get into the negatives, because I should get into it right now. We're already 5 minutes in, over 5 minutes in. I do really like this. I love that it's USA made. The price is about $300. Now, we're going to talk about whether or not I think that's overpriced or not here in 1 second, because I do got to mention the negatives, and then so we can, you know, kind of, so you can understand where I'm coming from. The edge came with a burr on it. Now, the burr is not as bad as the next knife we're going to talk about, but it does have a burr on it. And also, when I look at the edge bevel, you can see there's actually two angles when it's sharpened. I'm actually going to put a magnifying glass over it so you guys can actually see it really well like I do. Now, if you look, you can see the shinier part on the top of the bevel right there. And see how if I move it a little bit, you see the light shining on it differently. It's two different edge angles. That's one edge angle. That's a different edge angle. That's why it's shifting light like that. Now, you'll watch how it tapers off because it's only in the belly. See how it's like disappearing now? I'm on focus. Because it's only right here in this section. And then it stops right there. And then starts about right there. And also, you know, if you look at this bottom part, you can see how it's a little wavy. You know, right there, that's probably either the one, the sharpener on the belt, or it's just a geometry change. It might be a little bit thinner here and a little bit thicker right there. That's what happens with angles, you know, edges, if the geometry changes. But it has two edge angles. One edge angle is right here at the top of the bevel, and then the next one is, you know, the next angle. If you know sharpening, you can see it probably. If you don't, you might not be able to recognize that, and most people are not going to. And I don't expect Leatherman to be as nitpicky as I am about edges or sharpening. So I'm not actually holding this against them too much. I actually just wanted to take a second to kind of show maybe how, maybe I should do a separate video on this, but maybe I should just show how to properly remove a burr and how you can tell, right? So one way, and this will just be really quick, I'm not going to go all the way into it, how to do it or anything, but one way you can properly know if you deburred correctly, if your burr removal is great, is you could take your nail and just go like this. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to ruin your nail, but just rub it like that. It should feel like glass. Literally like glass, like just like me taking my nail right now against the side of this knife, that's what it should feel like. If it feels any bit of rough, if you feel any resistance, any where it almost feels like sand or anything like that, then there's something left on there. An edge bevel that has a perfect apex, that has a perfectly removed burr, feels like glass. So that's one way you can tell. That's why you always see me do that when I'm sharpening. Anyways, not that big of a deal because it's still a very sharp edge. It still cuts paper. It's not that bad. I just wanted to bring it up because it is a nitpick, right? We're talking about nitpicks. We're talking about a $300 knife here, so we can be a little bit more critical, right? The next thing is, again, like I said, if you squeeze it when you're going to close it, it will prevent you, but you can easily get used to it and, you know, kind of adjust the way you squeeze a knife, and you can easily shut it. And I think once you get used to it, it'll be no big deal. I do love the way they did the plunge ram, by the way. Love the way they did that. I believe the stop is here. So you have plenty of steel to remove. Again, the geometry is really good. Another thing with the action is because, like I said, the detent being light, it will, when you close it, it'll bounce out quite a bit. Now, I've just gotten used to clicking it in with my finger, like just reassuring that it's shut, but it seems like it bounces out most times, just because of the, now that one I got, but just because of the amount of force you kind of have to push through to get through the washer action, which is very glassy smooth. So I'm not, you know, I imagine this is gonna just get better and better and better and better, but as of right now, fresh out of the box, I have to give it a little bit of a, you know, oomph, and you see how it'll bounce back out. Now, when I try to land it without popping it out, I can, but usually it does pop out. There you go, I got it. It's just a timing thing, and also a squeezing things. Like I said, you got to be gentle. When I'm not under the camera, I am a little bit better with it too. Now, another little tiny nitpick, and this is dumb. This is not a big deal at all, but if you look inside the lanyard hole, you can see one side doesn't match the other, which I just thought was interesting. I thought, you know, I don't know if it's an accident, if it's made to do that. I have no idea. The pieces match together right here, but just the chamfer they put around the hole looks like one's smaller on one side than the other side. And same thing with that one. I don't know. Now, like I said, that's not even that big of a deal. For the most part, the finishing work is really, really well done. I personally like seeing the machining lines and stuff. That's something I find attractive, like right there, all those little lines. I love that. I think that looks really, really cool. I love this texture right here. So there is a lot of really cool little textures and stuff. And, you know, just a couple are, you know, are not matching up perfectly, but not that big of a deal. Like, again, the clip does move a little bit. That's not that big of a deal. You know, it is very slim, which I actually do like. And, you know, it is very solid. So as far as, like, you know, real negatives, there's not a lot. you know, there's little tiny things like the detents light, you know, the edge had a burr, you know, the clip kind of has a little bit of movement, but all of those are very, very minor, right? And an edge is always something that you can tune up and fix yourself. So it's pretty cool. I do like it. 300 bucks. So the stainless steel handle, it has a stainless steel handle. That doesn't feel great for 300. However, it's Leatherman. They're using MagnaCut, and the MagnaCuts ran at 60 to 63. So this is a little bit of a nitpick for me personally. It might not be for everybody else, but I like on a folding pocket knife to be 63 plus, at least at bare minimum 62. I personally don't want to see any MagnaCut knife under 62. Now, when you're talking about these fixed blades, I can maybe see an argument for 60, but I still don't think so. I think at 62, it's still going to be plenty tough. But maybe, you know, you want to be, you know, a little bit tougher, whatever. I think the toughness comes from more of the geometry than the heat treatment, because the heat treatment's so important. And I've tested MagnaCut, I don't even know how many times. I've tested a lot, like a lot. It's probably one of the most tested steels I've done. And it's like just basically like undeniable at this point as far as what happens when MagnaCut is over 62. When it's 62 plus, the edge retention is way better. The sharpening is way better. The burr removal is way better. Much easier to remove the burr, like very easy. And just the sharpness, just so many like things come out of the steel that make it an amazing steel. Now, I'm not saying that this one's soft. I don't know. This one could be 63. I haven't tested it. I don't know. Maybe they're saying 60 to 63 because these are 60, 61 and these ones are 62, 63. I don't know. I'm just saying what I see on their site. So that would be, you know, a negative. And if it is ran at 60 for the folding knife, I would say that that's a negative personally for me. But 300 bucks, USA made. I'm not horribly mad at the price. I understand this is a new one. It's got a new locking system. I'm sure a lot went into making this, and I kind of understand it, but I know a lot of people are upset at the price because I see in some comments. So yes, it is a pricey knife for the materials, but you know, as time goes on, maybe, I don't know. Cause I think about it like, what if this was titanium? Like then who knows how much they would have charged? Probably $600, $700. So I guess in order to keep the price down, they kept it as stainless steel, but it does not feel as good as, you know, my point is, this is my point. You can get like Kershaw's with aluminum and MagnaCut for like 160 bucks. So if this is double the price of that using technically a stronger material, but not as lightweight, and do you need it that strong? So these are all debatable things. I'm going to say that I don't think it's too crazy because I understand it's Leatherman, and I'm not trying to stick up for them or anything. I think that, you know, a company that puts a lot into a project deserves to make money off of it, right? That's why they're doing it. And I don't expect them to break even on it. Now, I think for 300 bucks, I'm sure they had a little bit of wiggle room there. But, you know, hey, they have a big standing name in the USA, and, you know, people love them. So, you know, can you really blame them? If they can get it, can you blame them? I can't. So if you don't like the price, you don't have to buy it. But I will say that it does have a unique feeling to it that is pretty interesting. But yeah, the price is a little bit high. Now, this one we're going to get through a little bit quicker because it is a fixed blade. And these are first impressions. I haven't done a ton of testing on it. But this one, my biggest thing with, well, first off, very comfortable in the hand. Very comfortable. Nice, broad, hollow grind. I love the geometry on both of these because it has a robust geometry while also being a geometry that's going to stay true. Meaning, when I sharpen this, it's not going to get thicker. So even after I use and sharpen these, they're not going to suddenly get dramatically thicker and my geometry is going to go to through the sewers, right? It's going to be amazing for basically ever. So I love that. And also that's going to make it easier to sharpen, easier to hone, easier to maintain, and all that good stuff. So I love that they use such a good hollow grind, even if it is relatively thick. It's like probably 20 thousandths behind the edge. Not mad at that with a deep hollow grind because the more I sharpen, it's just going to stay at 20. That's cool to me. Beautiful plunge grind and sharpening tool. Love how they did that. They left plenty of room for you to sharpen. This does have a crowned spine on it. The jimping is not super sharp, but It's functional. It does work. I think it'll work better with gloves. I prefer jimping that's tighter, but I'm not mad at it. It does have these chamfers right here that I do like for the pinch grip. Like if you're going to cut with the pinch grip, this is very comfortable right there. They definitely thought that out very well. It is full tang, obviously, and they call this oiled G10, I guess. And you can see the hardware there. So if you needed to take this apart and clean it or anything, you can. Magnet cut is very, very corrosion resistant. So my biggest negative for this one, well, there's actually two things. One, the price is $300 for this. Now that one, I think that's a little bit crazy. I think $300 for this fixed blade is a little bit pricey. Like, especially when you're talking about comparing it to this for $300. I've seen some of the fixed blades for like $276 for like the kitchen ones, but this, because I just feel that maybe a lot more went into this than making this. So maybe it's just me, but this also does come, and I should have said this already, with a beautiful leather sheath, which does cost something. And this is one of the thickest, most durable sheaths I've felt. So I'll put it there. The edge is bad. It has a very, very, very large burr on it. And you can see it fighting. It's like, this paper is really easy to cut, by the way. I grabbed it because it's easy, because see how it has a burr, right? So cutting paper is very easy, even if you have a burr on it. This one has a burr, and it's very easy to see and very easy to feel. I mean, like, a second I touched it, I went like this. I said, whoa, like, why didn't they remove that? It's not on this side. So this was the last side that they messed with before this side. Is it due to the heat treat? I don't know. I doubt it. I think it's going to be probably just due to their ability to sharpen knives very well. And that's why it's important to, you know, to do your best on your edges. Now, like I said, they're not a sharpening company. I'm not mad at that. You know, it's not a big deal. Sharpening is one thing that a knife should be, though, is sharp. And it is sharp. It just still has a burr on it. I have put it in and out of this sheath, and I thought it was going to come off, but it didn't. Here it is in the sheath, though. As you can see the loop right there for your belt. And you do have a snap, right? You can snap it, unsnap it. It's got a nice guard here. I like that. You do have a spot to where you can put your fingers in and get a good hold of it and then pull it out. Now this is, like I said, this is very thick and tight. And if you look, I thought because it's so tight in there, see how it's like getting that leather? It's probably made to be that way, but it hasn't removed it. It's still there. So burr's not coming off very easily. That's not a good sign. Usually that means a soft heat treatment, just FYI. As somebody who sharpened tens of thousands of steels, all with soft heat treatments, hard, good, bad, and everything in between, there's always indicators. Yeah, when it's softer, it's it's stronger, I guess you could say, but that strength isn't necessarily a good strength. But yeah, it's just softer. It's kind of like think of Play-Doh versus like a stick or something like that, like, or a stick versus a piece of metal, right? What? Rubber versus glass. There you go. Something softer isn't going to have, yeah, that's a lot better. I definitely could be even better, but way better. Oh yeah, way better. Oh yeah, you see that spot with that belly where it was really bad? Still has a little hang up right there, but, and it doesn't feel like glass. All right, I think I know what I can do. I'm gonna have to do it. Let's see if this works. Because this is a game changer. We're putting a micro bevel on it. This micro bevel is going to for sure remove the burr, or at least it should. If it doesn't, that's really bad. What I was trying to say earlier is that softer heat treatments or softer steels can lead to difficult burr removals. Now, if you have a steel that's super soft, what will happen is that burr will bend back and forth for days and never pop off. Kind of like bending Play-Doh back and forth. It just won't break because it's just too soft. It's too malleable. Well, same thing with the sharpness, right? The edge isn't even going to get very sharp because it doesn't have the edge stability. Think about like sharpening a crayon versus sharpening a stick. A crayon will sharpen up really fast, but it's not going to get very sharp. A stick will get much sharper, right? Because it's harder, because it has more stability. Typically, when you see a well heat treated steel that also has a good hardness, the burr just comes right off, comes off beautifully, and then it's easier to hone, easier to maintain, easier to sharpen, easier to keep sharp, and just everything is better about the experience in sharpening and honing and stropping and everything. But the opposite is true too. When it's softer, you know, the opposite is true. It's more difficult. It's harder to remove the burr. It's harder to get sharper, harder to hone, harder to maintain an edge, right, harder to strop, and yada, yada. Try that. Way better. Way. Oh, yeah, it is what it is. It has a nice big burr on it, and that could definitely be a lot better. That's my biggest negative with this, is that burr. Because to me, it's like, it's a knife. You should know how to break it off, but it's not a deal breaker. The price is definitely on the higher side, though, when we're talking about Magna Cut steel in G10. I know it's USA made, and I'm considering all that, but what I'll say is I would feel a lot better about it if it was 62 to 64 HRC. Even for a fixed blade. Magna Cut is a very tough steel. Now, crayon, I don't know. I'm on the fence about this one. I want to be honest. Because I don't know if 60 HRC or 61 HRC Magna Cut is going to be that dramatically better in tough arenas, right? I don't think so. I think that the toughness is, I think you should try to get it from the geometry, which this has very tough geometry. So this is already tough. Even if it's 63, 64 HRC, it's still tough. So that's the way I look at it. I would rather get the performance from the heat treatment and the toughness from the geometry, but that's me, and I'm not everybody. So you have to determine that. Do I think it's bad? No, but I haven't tested it. I have not tested it. I know people are like, what are you doing talking about? You haven't even tested it. I'm just doing a first impressions, letting you know how I feel about it, letting you know what to expect. Basically what I got out of the box and what you're going to get probably out of the box. So, you know, you can determine whether or not you want to pick one up. And now I will start doing some testing and stuff, and we'll see how it does. You know, maybe it might surprise the hell out of me. I don't know. We'll see. I do see there's like some scuffs already here. I haven't done anything with it, honestly. It just literally just came out of the box. Again, that doesn't even piss me off because it's a fixed blade. I'm going to do way worse than that to it. Let me be clear. They're cool. I like them. I'm glad Leatherman's doing these. I really am. And I want to see them do more folders because I like where they were going with this. And I like where they went with it. But I just mean, like, I'm glad that when they did this, they said, we're not going to do what everybody else is doing. We're going to tweak some things. And I always appreciate that. So, and it's not like they tried to reinvent the wheel or anything. They just, you know, they made a proper tool, a little bit pricey, but a proper USA made tool. And I'm excited to see how it holds up, because this might be something that absolutely shocks me. And later on, I might be like, it's well worth the money. You know, I don't know. This is just a first impressions, but there you guys go. Work hard, stay tough. Till next time. Peace.